To their parents, Martin and his 4 friends were as troublesome as could possibly be. They were only 16, and they already were on the road to making poor decisions. They drank, experimented with substances, constantly defied and challenged their parents, and recently were released from police custody after trespassing on an elderly man's property and damaging several items and taking others without permission. Their parents were at their wits' end. How would they make their sons into more responsible members of society? Well, after several meetings on the weekends after giving their kids some time away from them, they came up with the perfect idea. It wasn't until a month later that their plans were done, and a further month and a half until the results were ready to be put into effect. But today the waiting was over. It was time for the 5 boys to receive their discipline and to finally take it to heart. Because they knew that after today, their teenagers would be a lot easier to manage and actually contribute something positive for once in their lives. The first weekend of their Easter holidays was a welcome time for the boys. They had arranged to meet up at Martin's house and then play some video games in his room. Their mothers had come with them as well, and they had told their sons that they were meeting up with each other at Martin's house for coffee. As soon as all 4 of Martin's friends were upstairs in his room and busy playing games, the plan was put into motion. It was about 11 o'clock, 2 hours since they had arrived, before Martin's mom, Mrs. Andrews, called the 5 down to give them a quick announcement. The 5 boys came down and into the dining room, where the 4 mothers were sitting at the table and 5 spare chairs were set out for each boy. Mrs. Andrews motioned to the chairs. "Take a seat," she said firmly. The boys sat down and waited. The mothers looked at their sons. Martin was a smallish boy, with messy brown hair and piercing blue eyes. His clothes were usually a black pair of jeans with several rips and tears, and a red t-shirt with one sleeve torn off and the other torn off just before the shoulder. You usually never saw him without a toothpick in his mouth, as he insisted it would make him look cool. His friends looked like they came from all kinds of backgrounds. Louis Fisher was a large kid in terms of height, and he looked more like he was 18 instead of only 16. He had deep green eyes and incredibly short jet black hair. He wore a basketball shirt and a long pair of blue jeans. Like Martin, he and the others all had toothpicks in their mouths, as it was also a way to identify who was in their group as well as a fashion statement. Marco Hopkins was a boy with a similar build to Martin. He was small and had pretty much the same muscle density. He wore a green and blue version of Martin's outfit, only with the sleeves kept on. Unlike the others, he also had a bandana around his neck. He had deep brown eyes and dark brown hair with a hint of blonde. Sam Barker had a medium build and a decent muscle density. He had a black t-shirt and black jeans on, and also a wristband on his right wrist. His eyes were a shocking blue and his hair was black with crimson streaks. His hair was long enough to pass his eyes. However, he kept it gelled back. Leon Hopkins, Marco's brother, was a larger boy, more muscular than the others. He originally wasn't intended to be accepted into the group, but after he defended himself from a student who had begun mocking him, the other 4 began to see some value in him and let him into the group to act as some extra support. He had the same color eyes as Marco, but slightly lighter hair. He wore a torn black pair of jeans and an electric blue t-shirt. The 4 mothers continued. "As you obviously know, you were recently released from police custody at our expense. We were planning to use the money we spent at the station to secure college dorm rooms for you boys when you leave high school. Now, however, we're not even sure you'll be able to get into college, and as a result, years of saving have been affected in just an afternoon. Well, our punishment for you has taken all this time to prepare, and now it's time for the months of work to be put into effect," Mrs. Andrews explained. Martin looked at her and smirked. "What's our punishment then?" he said mockingly, as if challenging the mothers. "Well, over the past month and a half, you were listening to your favorite songs while at home, and during that time, subtle suggestions were made that were implanted in your subconscious," Mrs. Fisher explained, taking a small item out of her purse and holding it up for the boys to see. It was a tube of bright red lipstick. "Louis, take this lipstick and put it on." Yeah, right, like I'd do. Louis replied, trailing off. As soon as he had stopped talking, he had gotten up and was walking over to his mother. He took the lipstick, applied it, and passed it back to his mother. What the heck did I just do? That demonstrates our control over you. The five of you have been influenced by suggestions so strong that only we can break them. You will be compelled to follow every command we give, and to ensure you don't accidentally follow the wrong ones, you will only obey the commands of your mother, Mrs. Hopkins said, smiling. And when we do give you a command, you will be compelled to follow it without fail. Now, boys, we're going home to continue your lesson. Come along. Oh, and thanks for the coffee, Lisa, she added, getting up and thanking Mrs. Andrews. As she left the room, Marco and Leon were unable to stop themselves from following her. Mrs. Barker and Mrs. Fisher got up and left too to continue their son's guidance. They had arranged to meet up again later on, after the boys had received appropriate attire. Their lesson had begun. A few minutes after Martin's friends and their mothers had left, he stared at his mother for a few moments before she said, "Get up and come with me." She got up and went upstairs, Martin reluctantly following her. When his mother went into the guest bedroom, he saw that the closet had been filled with very feminine clothing. She was sitting on the bed, flashing him a smile. Martin knew that this was going to be an experience from which he may never fully recover. "Sit down, Minnie," his mother said, and he sat down on the bed instantly, and his mother touched his head. "Nap time, sleepy head." Martin fell backwards onto the bed, suddenly very tired. Why did she call me Minnie? Martin thought as he drifted off to sleep incredibly quickly. When Martin woke up, something felt strange. He tried to get up, but found he couldn't. So, he looked around. He saw his mother sitting in a chair at the foot of the bed. "Welcome to part 1 of your lesson, Martin," she said. "Who?" Martin asked, confused. "Who are you talking to? And why can't I move?" "Oh, I forgot. While you slept, I altered a few things in your mind, such as what you think your name is." "What is it again?" his mother asked. "How could you forget?" "My name's Minnie," Martin replied. Instantly, he realized what he had said, and his true name returned to his mind. He wasn't Minnie, he was Martin. What the? Why did I think my name was Minnie? See what I mean? You'll say that your name is Minnie when asked. "And what do you like to do?" his mother replied. Martin tried not to answer, but he couldn't help himself. "I like to go shopping for dresses, and I also like to go to fashion shows, and just about every other girly thing there is," Martin said, his voice subconsciously becoming higher as he spoke. "Oh, I see you noticed another effect. Each time you answer a question like that, you will subconsciously make your voice a little higher than before. Plus, there are a few more triggers that only I can take advantage of, such as this one," his mother said, before adding, "date night." Suddenly, Martin found that he was able to move, and when he looked down, he realized he wasn't wearing anything. He ran into his room and pulled out one of his favorite outfits, a black halter top with a matching miniskirt and black underwear. He finished the outfit with a pair of black boots. He put them on and walked back to his mother with no trouble. He paid little attention to the fact that he was walking incredibly easily in the boots. "Nice outfit, Minnie," Mrs. Andrews said, with a smile. As soon as the name Minnie was mentioned, everything rushed back to Martin. "Why did I put on these clothes?" he asked. Simple. Once again, it was part of the plan. Whenever you get dressed, do your hair, and the like, you will enter what I call Minnie mode. During that time, you will think that your name is Minnie and you will instantly know how to do things like apply makeup and how to wear certain clothes. That will last until either you realize that you are a boy or unless I release you from it. Oh, and every time you do something incorrectly, Minnie mode will activate again and you will be a younger version of Minnie. 10 times and you'll think that your name is Minnie and that you're 6, his mother explained, finishing with a playful smirk. "Oh, and you'll find that you will need to wear something special when I tell you. When I do, you'll instantly fall into a calm state, put on your special attire, and go to bed. After you wake up, for the next 24 hours, some of your usual abilities will be temporarily limited. You might find it harder to move around, and you'll be restricted to certain activities that are more suitable for younger ages. You'll also find that wearing certain clothes will make you feel uncomfortable, and wearing the wrong items will trigger a correctional response. Mrs. Andrews smiled knowingly, and if you try to ignore these changes or disobey, there will be consequences. However, there is a chance for you to regain your usual self once you understand the importance of following these new rules. Martin, feeling desperate, ran to his room. He grabbed his usual clothes, determined to avoid what his mother had planned for him. But as he reached for the clothes he thought would help him escape, he froze and found himself walking back to his mother despite his resistance. When he reached her, he stood still, trying to fight the urge to speak. "I've been misbehaving, and I know I need to accept my correction," he said reluctantly. His mother nodded gently. "That's right. But remember, you'll be aware of everything, and you did choose this path yourself." She took a small pouch from the bedside table and handed him a piece of paper. Martin opened it and read aloud the word written on it. "Lucy." "Ah, this one," his mother said with a smile. "Do you remember that time you felt a bit different and woke up feeling like you had a new perspective?" she asked. "Yeah, but was that because of this Lucy thing?" Martin asked, nervous. "Exactly. During this time, you'll feel a shift in how you see things. Not only that, you'll begin to explore things that might feel unfamiliar to you, and that's part of the experience," his mother explained before saying the words that triggered the next phase. "Lucy's here to learn." Martin had been stubborn, reckless, and rebellious for years. His defiance toward his parents, particularly his mother, had reached its peak. After countless run-ins with the law and a history of destructive behavior, Martin's mother, Mrs. Andrews, had reached her breaking point. But instead of punishing him in the traditional way, she and the other mothers decided to teach their sons a powerful lesson in personal growth, responsibility, and accountability. The plan was not to force compliance through fear, but to help them understand the deeper consequences of their actions and how their behaviors affected themselves and the people around them. It wasn't about humiliation or shame, it was about transformation. After Martin's mother explained the special time ahead of him, he reluctantly agreed to the plan, though he didn't fully understand what was to come. What he didn't realize was that his mother's actions were not just about control. They were about creating a shift in his perception, helping him recognize the immaturity in his ways, and giving him the opportunity to rediscover his true self. As Martin lay on his bed, the words his mother had spoken echoed in his mind. He wasn't sure what would happen next, but a strange calm settled over him. He allowed himself to drift off to sleep, and when he woke up, the world seemed different. The room was quieter, and there was an unfamiliar stillness in the air. The usual resistance in his mind had softened. When he tried to move, he found it harder to do so. His movements were sluggish, and he felt strangely detached from his usual self. For the first time, he felt vulnerable, not in a physical way, but emotionally. His mind wasn't racing with rebellious thoughts or a need to escape. Instead, he found himself listening, trying to understand. His mother stood at the foot of the bed, watching him closely. "Good morning, Martin," she said softly, her voice calm yet firm. "I see you're starting to understand the effect this experience is having on you." Martin blinked, still trying to process everything. "I don't understand," he whispered. "What is all of this? Why is everything different?" Mrs. Andrews sat beside him and placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. "You're beginning to see that growth isn't easy, Martin. It requires you to feel uncomfortable, to question who you've been and what you've done, and then to make the conscious choice to change." Martin hesitated before speaking again. "But I've always been like this. I've always been tough, defiant, a kid who didn't care about anything. And that's what we need to address," his mother responded. "You've spent years running away from responsibility and emotions. Now, it's time for you to face the consequences of your actions and the path that leads you back to yourself, but in a healthier way." The following days were challenging. Martin felt as though he was in a fog, disconnected from his usual self. His mother's rules and instructions guided him through each day, forcing him to confront the choices he'd made and the people he'd hurt along the way. His mother encouraged him to reflect on his behavior, not just in terms of obedience, but in terms of understanding the emotional pain that drove his reckless actions. Martin began to see that his anger and defiance weren't the result of a lack of discipline, but a response to feeling misunderstood and lost. Each day, Martin participated in activities that made him feel more grounded, journaling, helping with chores, cooking dinner, and most importantly, engaging in conversations that made him face the hurt inside. The process was slow, and it often felt like he was walking through a fog, but with each step, he could feel himself becoming more present, more aware of his actions. One evening, after spending hours reflecting on his past actions, Martin finally spoke to his mother from a place of honesty. "Mom, I never realized how much I was pushing people away. I thought being tough and rebellious would protect me, but it only made me more isolated," Martin confessed, his voice breaking with emotion. "I'm sorry. I'm sorry for everything I put you through." Mrs. Andrews looked at him with a mixture of relief and pride. "I know, Martin. I know. You're finally seeing the bigger picture. Growth doesn't happen overnight, and it's never easy. But today, you took the first step in understanding yourself. I'm proud of you." Martin smiled faintly, but it was the first genuine smile in a long time. "I'm proud of myself, too. I never thought I'd say that, but I feel like I'm finally starting to understand who I really am." The weeks that followed were a period of self-discovery for Martin. He and his mother continued to work together, and slowly, he began to regain control over his own life. He became more responsible, more open, and, most importantly, he found a way to make amends with those he had wronged. His relationship with his mother was no longer defined by tension and rebellion. Instead, it became a partnership built on mutual respect and understanding. And as Martin started planning for his future, applying to colleges, thinking about career paths, and making choices that aligned with his values, he realized that the punishment had been more than just a consequence. It had been a catalyst for his transformation. He wasn't the same person he had been before. The boy who once lived in anger and defiance had given way to someone who was more aware, more grounded, and more hopeful about the future. His mother, too, had changed. She had learned that sometimes the toughest love comes not from punishment, but from giving a child the space to grow and discover their true potential.